Hello and welcome back to another episode of Be Beautiful Adaptive Warrior. I'm your host, Angie, and this week I am so honored and excited to finally get a talk with none other, Noah Elliott, Paralympic snowboarder, gold medalist, bronze medalist, you name it. And Noah, it is awesome to finally meet you and talk. Thank you for being on the
Yeah,
show.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I know we've been trying to connect for a while, so it's great to finally get to connect more and be on here and chat with you.
Yeah, well, all about the podcast, just so you have an idea, I'm always trying to figure out ways. I feel completely blessed. Like my story started 3 years ago when I elected to amputate above the knee. Um, Not an easy decision, and by no means takes away differences on how people have lost their limbs, right? Each person has their own little journey that they go through. But I do remember that you were one of the first people that actually reached out to me. The community we belong to, being amputees, is incredible. They're supportive. No one's trying to better the other. It feels like everybody's very inclusive and wanting to help not have other people reinvent the wheel, so to speak. Right. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you remember this, but it was a huge impact on my life because a year after I lost my leg, I decided to try surfing.
Hmm.
Okay, I live in Arizona. I'm in the desert, but I wanted to
Yeah.
surf. I'd always been afraid of the ocean. Met Mike Coots, who
Yeah.
made me realize, you know what? Sharks aren't bad people. They're good. They just
Yeah.
were in their area. And luckily got to meet him when I was on Kauai and had surfed the first time. But I got home longing to surf. And I reached out to probably the Adaptive Surf Facebook group. You're on that.
Hmm.
And I just remember
Yes.
going, what do I do? I'm in the desert and I don't know when I'll get back to the ocean. And you're the
Yeah.
one that spoke up and said, get a skateboard. I'm like, well, excuse me, I've never skateboarded.
Yeah.
So now trying to do it as a one-legger, I wasn't sure that was going to be ideal. And then you said, well, get the biggest one you can find. So I
Hmm.
end up getting one of those big kahuna boards with
Yeah.
a street paddle.
Oh, sick.
And
That's perfect.
it was awesome. However, I have to tell you,
Yeah.
my poor husband, he's like, okay, you've never skateboarded before. Now you're going to get on the street with one leg. Um, I was, I was determined to learn it. I'm so stubborn that way. And we've been together since high school. So he understands who I am.
Yeah.
He turns around and goes, I'm not watching this. And my son's out there, I'll teach you, mom. So I get on this big old board, right? Thinking this will be so easy. I watched videos. I started
Uh-huh.
to try to move, and streets are not really smooth. So
No,
I
no.
decided to thrust my legs forward to get moving, and the board went out from underneath me, pinned my arms,
Yeah.
and I actually broke my AC joint.
What? No way.
Couldn't
No.
tell it took me 4 weeks to tell my husband. I finally had to go
Uh,
get x-rays because I wasn't. So now I kneel on it because
oh, yeah.
I can't afford to have that anymore. So anyways,
No.
I wanted you to know how impactful that was, that you were one of the first people that I actually clung to and started watching your journey and what was going on with you. And so to have you on here, I feel like comes full circle. And I'm really, really honored that you have taken time out of your busy schedule, coming back from the Olympics and having your own daily life and things to go through. Can you just start us off? No one wants to hear me talk anymore. Where did your story begin? What was your childhood like? And tell everybody a little bit about your amputation, if you would.
For sure. Yeah, so I'll just start it off kind of, I grew up in the Midwest. So I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and that's where I was born and raised. And so when I was a kid, I was there, and my family didn't really have a lot of money. So a lot of the sports that I wanted to do, we really couldn't afford, or we could only afford like halfway through the season. So I could try it out for a little bit, but then I wasn't able to like finish the season. And so I tried football, I tried basketball, I tried a couple things. And out of all of those, I ended up finding out about skateboarding because my neighbor was a skateboarder and I saw him skateboarding. We lived on this hill. It was called Vine Street, and it went through, and it was like a big hill down to a creek bed to another hill. So it like V'd with a creek in the middle. And so you live on like this side or that side of it. And so he actually was my neighbor. And so he would like skate all the way down to the bottom and then like go back to the top and skate down. And so that's where I first like discovered skateboarding. And I remember asking him, I was like, what is that thing? And I was like 8 or 9 years old. And he's like, yeah, it's a skateboard. And from that point on, I was like stuck on it. So I like kept talking to my mom, like, I want a skateboard, and went to Target and I got my first skateboard ever. And that's what kind of jump started my journey. Skateboarding was affordable. All you needed was a skateboard and a pair of shoes and you were able to roll. And that's what I did. And so by the age of like 10 or 11, I knew that I loved skateboarding so much, and I had already been watching skate films. I was introduced to the skateboard scene more. And so I knew, I was like, it's an opportunity for me to become a professional skateboarder and for me to do this for a living. And so that's what I was headed towards. And when I was 15 years old, my life kind of, I had a big impact that was like, okay, wow, now I have to really rethink and readjust on how I want to do this if I still want to do this. So when I was 15 years old, I had been with a girl for a while, and she was my girlfriend, and we'd been together for about 3 years, and we found out that we were going to be having a baby together. And so at that point, it was like this huge shocker, right? Because up until that point, the only thing I knew about and was focused on was skateboarding. And then all of a sudden, now I had to think about becoming a teen parent and what that was going to do for the rest of my career. And I knew that, I wanted to be there for her, and I wanted to be able to give her the best life I possibly could. And I knew, hey, I can be a pro skateboarder until I'm 18. And at that point, if it's not working for me, I can go and join the military. I can help support my country and support my family. And so that was my overall bigger picture plan. And then about my daughter was born in 2013 in February, and 5 months later, I got diagnosed with cancer.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So that again was like, life took a major shift. So right when I thought my life couldn't change anymore, it did. Right. And at that point, I had to really discover how I was going to go through chemotherapy. I lived in St. Louis Children's Hospital for a little over a year, doing chemotherapy treatments, and I received my first surgery, which at that time was a limb salvage surgery. So before I was ever introduced to the amputee idea and amputation idea, I was actually given a total knee replacement and a tibia bone replacement. And so they tried to save my leg. Yeah. So
that's a young age for all that.
I know. And it was so crazy because, I just had a fresh newborn baby that, I was trying to take care of and hang out with. And a lot of things kind of happened at that point. So, I was very fortunate that, they did like a review. I had already got my limb salvage surgery. At that point, though, when I woke up from surgery, I was told that I was never going to be able to do skateboarding, riding bikes, or really any sports ever again because of the situation of my leg. And at that point, I realized that I wasn't really Noah anymore. And it was really hard for me to grasp that concept of, growing up being such an athlete to now not being able to do any sports. You really lose that part of yourself who, you identify as. You're like, this is what makes Noah Noah, and I'm no longer Noah because I can't do those things. And we did the test. I found out that I was cancer free. The chemotherapy was working. I still had to finish the chemotherapy regimen, and I was on my way. I was starting to recover and getting back to my life with this leg. And at that point, I got exposed. It was 2014. I saw the Sochi Paralympics on TV when I was in the hospital. And then I got invited to go to Colorado to Steamboat Springs to see, to be a part of a camp for kids with cancer through the Sunshine Kids. So that was that opportunity where I like fell in love with mountains. I first saw the mountains, and I was like, I saw a Paralympic snowboarder in person, and I related to what I saw on TV with what was in front of me. I was like, wow, okay, this is something that I can actually go out and do because this is something I saw on the TV, and this is something that's right in front of me. And snowboarding is going to be way easier than skateboarding because you're strapped in. So I was like, I can totally knock this out of the park. And so that's what I did. I after that, I went back home. I told my mom, I was like, hey, Mom, I'm gonna save up money. I was 17 at the time. I was like, hey, I'm gonna save up money. I want to snowboard and everything. And at that time, like I said, I still had my leg. And I went into the doctor because I was still dealing with so much pain. And you get a surgery, and obviously you're going to be in a ton amount of pain, but that's not supposed to last forever, right? Like you're supposed to like heal and be able to like live life a little bit easier without constant pain. And so I was having that constant pain, and we went in and they did a test on my leg and drew fluid from it and found out that my body was rejecting the metal that they put in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that was like
Wow.
another like, oh, okay, well, cool. I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna amputate my leg because then I can go snowboard. And that's like, so I actually was, yeah, like I elected it because I saw the opportunities with prosthetics, and I looked at it from the point of, my leg is dead. It's not going to get better. It's just going to get worse. But prosthetics are continuing to evolve and change. And like, I was like, I'm so young. And by the time I'm older, like there's already such great equipment out there for prosthetics.
Yeah.
Like, imagine what it's going to be in 10 years from now. And
Right.
so I was like, for sure, I want a rocket leg that I can go like boosting through the air on. So
I do think that maybe your leg is more special.
yeah, yeah, there's like so many cool things out there. So I'm like, okay. So yeah, I decided to amputate when I was 17, and then that started my journey for me to save up money and move to the mountains.
And you had never snowboarded up to that point of going and seeing that?
Exactly. So even when I was in Colorado on that trip for Kids with Cancer, and I met Brenna Huckabee, she had the same kind of cancer as I did, and she was at that camp as well, and she was already cancer free and snowboarding. Um, because of my leg, I couldn't snowboard or anything. So I was on a ski bike, which was super fun.
Yeah, those are
Um,
cool.
those are really cool, right? So that's what I did, but I wasn't able to snowboard. But I had never snowboarded up until that point, and so I just knew it. I looked at it and I was like, it's a board. Like I skateboard. I know skateboarding and surfing are like the hardest board sports out there. So I'm like, you know, like I can totally do this. This is easy. My feet are strapped in to the board. Like this is easy.
I'm a skier. So the whole
Yeah,
snowboarding thing is like me and the skateboard. Although I don't understand. I think I like surfing better because hitting water is so much better than hitting cement.
yeah. But water's scary, right? Like when you get held under, like that's so scary. Like
True. And I have been hit in the head with my surfboard because just being a novice and not thinking about it. Right. So
yeah.
did the skateboarding to the snowboarding translate relatively quickly for you? Or was there some challenges, especially like for me skiing? I've been told I went to the I think it was where you were at the adaptive
Oh, city, yeah. The
yeah,
National Ability Center.
that's where I think I first learned. And
Mm-hmm.
I had just gotten my leg a week before. So I knew I wasn't going to even try because I couldn't even walk in it yet, let alone try to
Yeah.
ski. So I just went to 3 tracking right away. It's
Uh-huh.
intense, but I
For
don't know if I would grasp, and I could consider myself an athlete. I don't know if I could grasp snowboarding and being strapped down. That kind of freaks me
Yeah.
out a little bit. So was there
Yeah.
a translation, or did you find that there was some challenges? Because you went from learning to competing like that.
Yes. Yeah. So I actually I remember thinking back on it, and like when I think back on it now, I remember looking at it and being like, okay, the thing that scared me about being strapped in was the fact that if you fall, your board, you can't bail on your board. Like in skateboarding, like if you're like skateboarding and you're like up in the air and you're like, I don't want this to work anymore, you just kick it out and then you can like
Yeah.
land and roll it or jump out of it. And so it's a way to like, you can do something and kind of get away without like having the board go with you. But when you watch snowboarding falls, it's like slam, roll,
Yep.
roll, roll. And I was like concerned about that, but I also looked at it from the point of, in skateboarding, you have to move your feet in a very specific way to make the board do what you ask of it. And
Mhm.
in snowboarding, you can kind of get away with that. So when I first started, the hardest thing for me was actually figuring out the way my prosthetic was going to be set up,
Yeah.
because I never snowboarded. So I didn't know what it was supposed to feel like, but also I didn't know how my prosthetic was supposed to feel because that was all new for me as well. So it was really trying to dial in the way and the settings that I wanted my leg to be at, so
Mhm.
that when I snowboarded, I could snowboard and make it feel as normal as possible.
Well, and I think that translates exactly how I felt. And it's hard to explain to anybody about how surfing worked. I had never surfed before. So I think
Yeah.
it's easier to grasp when you don't have preconceived feelings and notions that you have to, like skiing is a little bit harder because I know I don't have that second leg to balance out. So my right
Yeah.
quad really takes it, and I'm overcompensating with my upper body strength because of fear of wiping out and having
Right.
my good knee tweaked. But with surfing, I don't know what feels good and what doesn't feel good. It just feels the way it is with
Yeah.
no preconceived notion. It
Yeah,
might be a
I agree.
plus, actually.
I'd say so. Cause yeah, now that you bring that up, totally like it's like skateboarding, right? Like I go to skateboard and I can still skate, sure, but it's not nearly like at the level that I used to be at. And so it's almost like a mental block, right? Where you're like, you
Yep.
put up a wall, like, oh, I know I can do this way, but now I can't. And it's almost like
Yeah.
frustrating. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, but when you don't know, you don't know. You're just like, hey, this is it. And
Yeah.
this is awesome.
Someone's
Yeah.
like, so how do you do that? I'm like, well, I don't know, because I wouldn't know how I would have done it before. And people have said, so is your
Yeah.
right leg or your front, is your right leg your front leg, or is, and I'm like, in surfing, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This is just
Yeah.
what it is, you know? So
Yeah.
I think there's some positives to that. I really
For
do.
sure.
I'm gonna scooch back just a little bit in your story. Um, a lot of people that I've talked to that have become amputees, they really struggle because, you know, of course there's different mindsets. And I always talk about mindset and attitude, and really the common thread, which I see with all these athletes this year, but also average Joes like me that aren't in the spotlight like that. Mindset, I think, has 90% of the success rate, right? Your attitude, your mindset, your willingness, or as Ronnie said a couple weeks ago, the toughness, that the character building that amputation
Yeah.
takes on you. And it's whether or not it's going to make you or break you.
Yeah.
But I also know that there are, one of the biggest things that's helped me succeed is my support system here. Right. I
Mhm.
have my husband from back in 1989, well before you were born. Um,
Yeah.
and my kids, my high school and college age boys that have laughed with me and hugged me when I cried. And what was your support? I mean, it's hard enough being an amputee,
Yeah.
because cancer is now in your head, being a teenager, trying to figure out who you are and what you're going to be in this world, and thinking that the world is at your fingertips, but also then being a father. Who was your biggest support through all this? How did you manage to do this?
My mom, for real. Like my mom is the MVP. She is like the hidden warrior, like behind
Oh,
everything. Seriously, is like, I mean, she's always been there for me. And even like when I was younger and I was doing stupid stuff, like she would always support me and be like, hey, probably shouldn't have done that because like now you're hurt, or
yeah.
but she would always like support me and lift me back up. And I remember her, when I came back from that trip and I got my amputation and I told her, I was like, yeah, hey, I'm moving to Utah. She's like, no, you're not, really? And I'm like, yeah. And then we went to Tennessee to work with the amputee blade runners, and I got to go and I was applied for a grant and I got my first running blade from them. And while I was there, I actually got a phone call interview for a snowboard shop that I was going to be working at in Utah. And I was in the car with my mom, and I was like, hey, I gotta take this interview. And she's like, what? I was
Wow.
like, yeah, it's in Utah. And then I got the phone and they're like, yeah, you got the job. And I was like, awesome. And then I told her and she's like, wait, so you're really going? And then from there, she was just like, okay, let's figure out how to make this work. Like, and so, I set everything up on my own, but she definitely gave me ideas and supported me. And throughout the whole journey, like when there was times where I wasn't able to have Skylar with me, she was there to help out. And yeah, just really be my overall like constant supporter. Right. And that's key, right? When you have that
It
consistency,
is.
um, but I agree 100% with what you were saying. Like, it really is like the body can handle it. It's
Mhm.
truly about the mental state of it. And you have to be willing to try it because um, life's amazing and there's so much, it's too short and there's so much out there to do and to try. Like, don't because you have a disability, wake up and be like, I can't do that. Like, give it a shot. Like, worst thing's going to happen is you're going to find out, hey, I have to do this, but it's going to take me a little bit longer or differently to
Right.
do it. And you make it happen.
Yeah, I tell you, ever since this, it's almost a whole new lease on life. My last 3 years have been extraordinary. And the doors that have opened, the people that I have met, because I'm willing to put myself out there. I try to be transparent. There are days when life sucks. It
Yeah.
just sucks. And it's okay that it sucks, because
Yeah.
everything about life, whether you're an amputee or not, has mountains and valleys, right? And we
Mm.
ride that wave as hard as we can if we want to live a really great life. And really great lives, like right now, knock on wood, my socket fits great.
Yeah.
Tomorrow,
Hey.
maybe not,
Right.
like I'm in the midst of getting ready to get my new sea leg, my new socket. And about a month ago, I was starting to panic because you're an above knee, correct?
I am. Yeah. Yeah. We're twinning over here.
Right? And are you left leg?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. I just got a revision too. I'm not sure if you got to see all
Okay.
that, but
Yes. And I want to talk about that.
we'll get,
I am talk about overcoming. Y'all that are listening to this guy's story is incredible. I mean, he's already been through all this by 17. You jump into snowboarding like no big deal. Typical 17-year-old boy. I'm sorry.
yeah. Yeah.
Stereotypes are not, it's so like, yep, let's just do it. Let's just
Yeah.
do it. Right. And I get the whole idea of identifying as an athlete. I mean, I talked to, before Ronnie, I talked to Andrew Hauser, who is an amputee as well. And he has worked with elite MLB teams and as an athletic trainer, a strength coach and everything. And he said the exact same thing. It's like, this is who I've always been. And he had an accident at about 17 or 18 and he lost his leg in a car accident. And he was like, and that's how I felt. And it seems so strange, but all my life I was an athlete. Then I became a mom and I was like,
Yeah.
whoa. And the reason I got
Right.
hurt was because I wanted to be that athlete again. And I hurt myself in karate. Go figure. But the idea that you've been through all this at that age, I know a lot of people say, well, of course, he was young, he had age on his side. Yeah, true. Right. But it really is the mental state. It is the decision, the ultimate decision to move forward and not live in the past. Because we could all sit there and go, well, woe is me. I mean, you've been through a lot at such a young age. It doesn't matter when it happens to you. You've still been through a lot more than most people in their life. When it comes down to it, and you spent what, a year, and then you made the Olympic team?
Yeah, I had a year and a half of training. So I started snowboarding a half before, and that's all it took for me to be able to get up and figure it out and start competing. So kind of what happened, but like real quick, just like saying what you were saying, like the outlook of it truly is what defines how you're going to be that next version of you, and that like that Angie 2.0, and that's what that is. And for me, like I was in St. Louis Children's Hospital, and at the time, like we had to room with other kids a lot of the time, and so there was no way I could really feel down because I was a 16-year-old going through chemotherapy, 16 and 17, but yet like I saw like 10-year-old kids and that were going through cancer and that I'd become friends with, and then they would pass away. And so it was, very sad and tragic. And that I think was really eye opening for me at such an early time during my injury and like my diagnosis, to where I was like, I'm so lucky to be here. I'm so fortunate. So I should like pursue life and look at it that way. And so that's where my mental state came from. Is like, I'm lucky I'm even here. Like I should definitely be going out and getting it, because not everyone's given that opportunity. And so when I moved to Utah and I started snowboarding, I moved to Park City, Utah. I'd been talking to Brenna and I was asking her, I was like, hey, what do you do? Like I'd been following her on Facebook since that day that I'd met her in Steamboat Springs, and it's like, where do you train? I want to come train and I want to make the team and I want to start competing and I want to make Korea. So I showed up. She told me to go to Park City, Utah to the NAC. So I did. I used a scholarship that they provided and the money that I'd saved up from working over the next couple of years. So at that point, I was 19. So I was 19 years old. I moved out there, and then I was working at a snowboard shop so that I could learn the equipment that I was going to be using on hill, because I knew nothing about skiing. I knew nothing about snowboarding. Like, up until that point, I'd only seen a mountain on a trip for like 4 days in Colorado. So
I'm an Illinois girl, so I understand that.
Get it, right? Like, you're in the Midwest. So you're like, I don't know anything about that. But so that's what I wanted to do. And that's what happened. And then I started snowboarding that season, the end of that season. And then the next season was the games year. And I met the US coach at nationals at the end of that year. I placed fourth in my first event ever, and that was nationals, and my first time on a course or anything. And then I talked to the US coach. Then he asked me what my goals were, and I told him I wanted to compete in Korea. And he asked me if I had a passport, and I was like, no, I've never even, like, the only place I've sites here in Colorado is Florida, and the only reason I was in Colorado is because it was paid for me, and just got here. So he's like, "We'll get a passport," and then I had to raise money. I worked at the NAC and did some speaking engagements so that I could go to New Zealand for my first World Cup and
Wow.
start qualifying.
Wow. And did your mom stay in Missouri? Or did she come out with you?
No, she stayed there. She's actually never even been to Utah still.
Really?
Yeah, so I know we've been trying to get her to go. I'm like, Mom, we gotta go.
Come
That's where
out, right?
like, Mom, we gotta go. But yeah, so no, it was just me. Oh, and I convinced my best friend I grew up with to move with me. And so he moved with me so we could afford it, right? Because
Mhm.
it's expensive. We're in Park City. It's like one of the most expensive places to live, I feel like. And yeah, and so we actually, the job that I originally got hired for, we got there, and before I went and actually had my first day and like met everybody, I went into a different snowboard shop, and they were like on the mountain. The other snowboard shop was Crispy Sports, and it was like right
Mhm.
outside of the mountain.
Yep.
And so, this one was called Bazookas up at Park City Mountain. And I went in there and they were also hiring. So I actually talked to them and I was like, "Hey, you guys are hiring." So I actually ended up getting a job with them too. So I had two jobs set up, and I just gave the other one, like I went in and was like, "Hey guys, like there's a place that works better for me over here. I'm going to work there, but I have somebody that can fill my role and is willing." And they were like, "Okay." So then my buddy had a job, I had a job, and we were both doing the same thing, just different spots. And yeah, we shared an apartment and made it work.
That's so cool. What a story. All right. So now moving forward, you actually made the Olympics.
I made the
You've
games.
been to the 2018 and then this most recent one, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm very interested to hear what happened this last one because I didn't
Yeah.
realize that till after the fact. But tell us how the
Yeah.
18 went because you medaled there.
For sure. So year and a half later after I started, I had gotten my prosthetic where it needed to be. I had traveled to the World Cups and competed, and I qualified for the Paralympic team for Korea. And so I went to Korea, and all those skills of skateboarding like transferred over at that point. Like at that point, it was just, okay, cool. Now I need to figure out how to be a better racer. Like I got snowboarding. How can I be a better racer? And I won a bronze and a gold medal in Korea. I won the bronze in snowboard cross and the gold in the bank slalom, and that really like boosted my career because that was the eye opener, right? When it was like, this is what I dreamed of doing, and now I've done it. Like this is what like this is awesome. Like this is
You're like,
crazy.
well,
Like
yeah, there's no limit now, right?
yeah, and I was like, okay, I want to really figure out how good I can be. And so over the next couple of years, I was testing that, and I won a couple different world titles, had a lot of medals in between, and leading into this season, I had an issue going on that I wasn't really vocal about because I didn't want my competitors to know, and I didn't want my team to know. I didn't want them to look at me any differently, and I wanted to make sure that I was still going to be like mentally. It was almost a mental thing for me, right? Where I was like, nothing's wrong with me at all. Like I got this, even though my bone was about to be sticking out of my leg, like
Huh.
compound fracture style. So it was crazy. But so throughout the whole winter this season, like I had to go and compete and qualify for China as well, and so um yeah, it started back in August, and since August, I couldn't really wear my leg. I've been on crutches like pretty much the whole time. I could only wear my leg if I was at a World Cup snowboarding, and that was it. And so I had a wound that started from a bad fitting socket back in August, and because of the shape of my leg, right, my leg shape was like an ice cream cone, so it was not normal amputated leg look, right? Like
Okay.
when you look at a residual knee, like and above the knee, it's round, it's nice and round, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. I had like the muscle retracted back, and I had my bone at the end.
Oh,
And
okay.
so when I wound that was going on, there was no meat in between the skin really and the bone. And then, I had to compete on that. And so, I crushed it all season. Like I had won the last four competitions, and I got a world title leading into the games. And then I had to leave Norway early because um, the night after I won my bank slalom world title, I took my leg off and I had like this much blood
I,
pooling in
s-
my sock.
I saw the picture and I was like, what? That
It
is,
was so early. Yeah, my teammate was like, "Oh my god, dude, like your leg's that bad." Like, and one of my teammates, two of my teammates really knew about the thing that I was dealing with, and my coaches at that point knew because they had to know, right? I mean, it
right.
was, why aren't you on snow every day like you usually are? And, why are you not wearing your leg like at all unless you're snowboarding? And so, like at that point, they had knew what was going on. I had already qualified for China, and it was really a question: am I going to be able to go? Because I came home from Norway early. Everybody else stayed in Norway, and they were competing for SBX. And I came back to see doctors and to just try to get my leg healed before China. And the scab formed over that spot. Like I had this little blister wound that almost healed, and then it got rubbed raw when we were in Norway again, and then it turned into like one big, like giant wound. And so it was almost like a pressure wound too at that point. So I was like, okay, this is weird, but I had the scab on it. So I went into my prosthetic appointment, got it refitted, came out of there, and then all of a sudden I like took the bandage off because I had to bandage it before I put my liner on. And I took the bandage off, and my femur bone was sticking about an inch and a half, 2 inches out of my leg.
Oh my,
And I could see it, and I was like, oh my god, that's my femur. That's my bone. And I was like, okay, China's done. I'm not going to China anymore. Like,
this was
and
before you competed?
this is like
Oh,
2 to 3 weeks before I went to China.
oh no.
And so I was like, but I wanted it so bad, and I needed it, and like, I wanted to try to do it still. I'm like, I still am, like, even with my leg messed up, like I just won a world title. Like I'm still riding really, really well. Like I know I could win. Like for sure I can win. So I was like, I should try to do it. So
Oh
I
my
was,
gosh.
yeah. So I went, I talked to many different doctors. And at the end of the day, they decided, they said, we think it's a reasonable risk. You have to get surgery no matter what. I had already talked with the surgeons. They said, we feel comfortable with you doing this. Like if it gets
Wow.
any worse, we can fix it during surgery. And so I showed up in China with my femur sticking out, and I had to manage that every day that I was there. And I got the least amount of training on course. I only got like 1 day of training on course, and had to compete in only like 2 runs. And then, yeah, so then in border cross, the course was really not favoring to my style of riding. So there was a couple of my teammates that also were in the same boat as me. Like we usually do really, really well, but the course was just not suited for us. So it was really wide open, flat, not a lot of features. And so it made it to where like the heavier riders would really just accelerate and go.
Got it.
And so that made it challenging for a lot of us. But so I finished 6th in snowboard cross. And then, obviously my leg was bothering me a ton at this point, extremely painful. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do bank slalom or not. And so we had just waited, and the day came. I got 1 practice day in, 2 runs on bank slalom, and then competed, and I got 4th. I was so close to being on the podium. I was like, I was right there, but I wasn't riding nearly at the level that I usually do either, just because of the circumstances. But all in all, I was so proud to even be able to go. And yeah, so it was amazing experience, and it was good.
The fact that you competed and you actually placed that high. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm astounded. Like I was watching for you guys, you and Mike and everybody, and who was landing on what medal. And I was like,
yeah,
oh, he didn't. And then it was like literally maybe that next week that you posted about your
yeah,
leg. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But I cannot believe he did that. Like that's
yeah.
incredible. So talk about mindset and talking about what you feed your brain, like the messages that we feed ourselves.
Hmm.
I talk a lot about positive self-talk.
Oh
Some
yeah,
people struggle just wearing their prosthetic all day because it just is uncomfortable. And people will
hmm,
say, is that normal? One, you can probably agree with, there is no such thing as normal when you don't have
oh
your leg you were given at birth.
yeah,
It's not
totally.
normal. So you're going to
Mm,
have to deal with the fact that, and I've talked about like, sometimes people have these expectations that, well, I'll get a prosthetic and my life will be fixed. No, it's
right,
just a whole nother set of issues.
ongoing.
It
Yeah,
is ongoing,
yeah,
right? And so the fact that you did that, that is incredible. It gave me the heebies because I totally could visualize it on my own leg. I have excess skin because I had actually about 5 years of surgeries prior to my
okay,
amputation decision. And when you have that many surgeries and you have no range of motion, you can't do anything. So I end up gaining weight. I went from being like in really great shape at like 41 to gaining all this weight. So right after I lost my leg, I was out and moving and took off about 55 pounds. Well, then I had all this excess skin. But there's one section on the back that if I'm really hiking a lot, I'm hitting bone on the back of my socket, and I'm a skin fit. So I have nothing between me and my socket. It's like just me. And it hurts. So when you said that yours was sticking through and I could feel my bone, I was like, visualizing that makes me want to throw up. So what kind of surgery did you end up having after the Olympics?
Yeah. So obviously when your bone's sticking out, you need surgery. So like I came back, I left early. I didn't go to closing ceremonies because, get on it immediately. And it was okay. Like I totally like, it's an amazing experience. I love it. I'm thankful I've got to experience it before, but with my bone sticking out, it just wasn't worth the risk of me staying an extra couple days to do that. So I got back, and then what they did was essentially they told me what happened. So I had a couple different doctors that have been working with me to help me like figure out why my leg looked that way, because that wasn't normal, right? And
no.
I'm to find out it was a combination of three things that caused my leg to get to that point. Number one was when they did the original amputation, where they actually did the incision line on my leg, and the fact that I was still growing. So where incision line, the fact that I was still growing, and how active I was. Those three things is what caused my leg to do what it did. And so what ended up happening is, when they do the amputation, right, they amputate and they pull your muscles around and they wrap them around the end so that you have padding.
Yep.
So my femur bone grew through where they attached the muscle. So my bone grew through the muscle, and then that's what made my muscle like retract back and have my bone out front.
Okay.
And so that's what caused that. And I was so active, right? It was just like making the muscle get further and further back. So what they did is they went in. They originally told me, like, hey, we need to do a revision. You may end up losing 2 to 4 inches of your leg, which at this point, right, when you're already in AK, it, like, you've already lost so much. You've lost this joint. Like,
the joint is very important there.
Very important. It's like, if we had our knees, life would be so much easier, right? Like I could just run upstairs, no problem. Like
I could run better. I can't even still run. It scares me to death. But I get it.
Yeah. And so I was like anything above that, you're losing so much more leverage. It's going to make everything harder, right? And so I was really concerned about losing 4 inches of my femur because I was already like pretty low, like right above the knee. And I was really thankful I got in touch with the right doctors, thanks to the team. And they only took 1.5 inches of my leg. So I'm actually like at the ideal length now, because I can fit more knees and feet than I would have been originally.
Yes.
Which is awesome. So like now I'm at the ideal length. My leg looks so much better. I just got the stitches taken out last Friday. So my leg looks amazing now. I'm like, that looks like a real leg. It's supposed to look. So I'm excited. Like I'm new again, and like I'm ready to get after it.
So how long will the recovery be before you can slip your socket on?
So it looks like they gave me the clear to start working out again like next week, because like I've lost a lot of muscle. Like usually I have a very fat metabolism, and usually I got to just continue to work out and eat a bunch to like keep it on. And surgery and everything and not being able to lift, like I've definitely lost a lot of muscle. So start working out like next week, and then get my shrinker next week as well. And then middle May is when I'll start walking. So middle to end of May is when I'll be like consistently walking, and then just getting back after it.
That's awesome. And it's quite a journey, isn't it? Having the idea of having a revision, or a year ago I had that TMR surgery because I had a huge symptomatic neuroma on my hamstring, and they took out about 4 inches back there. It's been amazing, but then you're out of your socket and you're like, great. Then you have to worry about the fit again. And people just don't understand that certain things, when you get a new socket, things rub funny, and you have to, it's like, I always say, it's like putting on a brand new pair of shoes and then going out and trying to run a marathon the first day, breaking them in. And you're like, and there's a blister and there's a rash and there's soreness.
That's a good way to put people who, aren't amputees or might not fully understand like that. Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna use
Yeah,
that. I like.
it is.
Yeah,
It's so true. Like, because that's, I mean, and my husband, who's been my support, has been so great because whenever I do have to get a new one, I mean, when you lose weight, like I was losing weight like for 2 years there, I felt like I
yeah,
was getting new sockets. I felt like it
all the
was
time.
like every other month,
Yeah.
and you're sitting there and you finally get to a point. At first it's great and you're like, yay. And now at this point, 3 years in, I'm like, oh, it's time to get a new socket.
Oh, I know. It's like, yeah, you're like, oh, I gotta go back.
You're
Like,
like, here we go again. And my husband's like, just remember the first week sucks. I'm like, I know, and I'm not really up for sucking for a week, because it puts everything on hold that your normal life, right?
yeah,
As much as you'd
yeah,
like it to be normal.
yeah. And like sometimes you'll get it right, and the first week will be like something like I've had it where like I've had a sock and I'm like, whoa, like this is actually going really, really smooth. And then like 2 weeks in, bam, and you're like, what? Like I thought this was supposed to already happen. Like,
Just
why
keeping
is
it
it?
real. Just keeping it
Yeah.
real.
Uh,
Right? Just kind of those sucker punches. So I have a couple more quick questions. Now that you are getting on the men's, where are your sights set? Where are you at?
so I definitely, I've done a lot of work with different nonprofits, with working like throughout the whole season. Like I've been working for the last couple of years at a nonprofit here in Colorado to help people with disabilities get out and recreate again. So it's just like the NAC in Park City.
Mhm.
So I was teaching people to snowboard. I was doing summer activities, rock climbing, stuff like that. So I definitely want to still be able to go out there and help people. I want to do more with Wiggle Your Toes in Minnesota and get out there and do
Yeah.
more wake surfing with guys and helping people with that. Um, and yeah, really like help get more people into it because I have a lot of people that I've been talking to through social media, that I've met or on Facebook groups that are trying to get into the sport, and I want to help facilitate that for them and help them get involved, and then also obviously compete. Like I'm not even at my prime competing level yet, and now that my leg's going to be fixed, I'm definitely going to be a lot better off. I'll be stronger. So I really look forward to Italy because I think Italy, Cortina in 2026, I'll be a freaking beast. So my plan is to continue to work towards everything that I need to, continue competing, and yeah, travel the world a little bit more, and bring Skylar with me to some places, and have fun.
That's awesome. That is totally awesome. I love to hear that. Wiggle Your Toes, big shout out to them because they are the ones that came through 1 year after my amputation with a running blade. Because I was, it's ironic how you kind of get in with different groups of people. By doing that, I was setting up a goal. That one of the things I learned, some peer-to-peers, I got to do peer-to-peers. Okay. So that was a benefit of my situation. And I had
Uh-huh.
met a young lady who was an Air Force pilot and lost her
Oh,
leg tragically. Do you know Christy?
yeah, I know
Yeah.
her. Yeah, she's awesome.
She was one of my first peer-to-peers. Like that was like the best person to give me
Oh,
because
yeah,
she was totally me if I had been her age. Like a total
yeah.
go-getter. No is not a part of my vocabulary. And she's like, oh, you could totally do this. You're gonna rock this. No worries. And I was like, oh, thank God. But she's the one that inspired me to kind of get running and setting goals. Like I noticed that she didn't go, well, someday I want to. She would be like, I'm going to be running at this date. I'm going to be doing
Yeah.
this by this date. And then I met a couple other people that said the exact same thing. And that was a common thread. It was the attitude and mindset. And it was the goal
Mhm.
setting that was strict goal setting, not
Oh, yeah,
fluid. And
yeah.
so my first goal was to run in our Phoenix Rock and Roll Marathon, not to do a marathon, but to challenge myself. So I 10K, but I decided to do it through St. Jude and be one of their heroes. And then
Uh-huh.
that just opened up other doors and it was ironic because I had to fight for my leg. Um, Insurance didn't want to help.
Yeah.
And so I had to fight. And I had already signed up for this and knew I needed a running blade. And I thought, well, they'll never pay for a running blade. And those are expensive.
Yeah.
And I signed up not knowing what would happen and just prayed a lot that it was going to work out. And someone told me to talk to Aaron in Wiggle Your Toes,
Yeah.
Aaron Home. And I
Yeah.
told him my story. And that next week I had a running blade.
That's
Like
so awesome. See, they're great people. Like, yeah, it's so sick.
that was life changing for me. and that
Yeah,
door opening to the possibilities that this world could be more than just barely getting by, right?
for sure. And it's
Um,
funny, right? It's
it
funny
is.
just you're like, oh, like I'm used to like doing everything with my one leg and now it's gone. And then you like realize that when you get a prosthetic, you need like different legs for different things. You're like,
Yes,
wow, and they're expensive. Wow. Like,
they are. And it truly is. Your leg, and I'm going to ask this really quick, the technical side of it, your leg that you use, is that Mike's design?
yes, yes.
That's cool. I asked him about it. He and I talked a while ago, like a long time ago, when I started this whole world of new parts was
Yeah.
possible, that it was there. He was really just getting out with Biodapt
Uh-huh.
and really getting the word out at the very beginning, a couple of years ago. And
Yeah.
I was looking for a surf leg. He goes,
Yeah.
"Yeah, you
Oh
could
yeah.
do it in the ocean, but or in the lakes, but not
But not,
saltwater." I'm like, "You got
yeah.
to be kidding me," you know? So
Yes.
it is. It's like, I mean, I have a beach leg, I have a surf leg, I have a running blade, I have a do it all multi-purpose leg,
Yeah. And
and it's
backups. Sometimes you need a backup leg too. You're like, what
totally
if my walking breaks? And then you're like, what am I gonna do if my walking leg breaks and I can't walk? And you're like, what do I do? So you gotta have a backup, you know?
funny but tragic story. We went to Kauai that first year, and I was going to try surfing, and
Uh-huh.
I got there, unpacked, and I didn't have my charger.
No, no.
So that's
That
how
is
I met the people on Oahu, Eric
yeah,
Walton, North
yeah.
Shore, and
Uh-huh.
he reached out to Autobach and got it overnighted out to the islands.
That is amazing.
And I was like, because that's how I actually started talking to Mike too. And Mike's like, "Yeah, I'm baloney. I don't need a charger." I'm like, "Ah."
Uh
He goes,
no.
"But talk to Eric." So, it was like meeting Chris, Coach Chris on social
Yep.
media, who told me to call Mike, who told me to call Eric. And the next thing I know, I'm in this world, this Illinois girl gone desert rat is now part of
Yeah.
Hawaiian Island world. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's tragic when you don't have your charger, because I tell people it's like losing power steering in your car. If you've
Yeah.
is your leg ever died on you? Because
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it either locks up or like it just like goes super loose. It depends on which
oh,
leg it is. Yeah, it's like you got one or the other, and either one's not good. So
it isn't. I went total peg leg. So luckily I had a couple other legs that I could actually hydraulic, which is frightening to use at first when you're used to an electronic one, but
yeah.
it served its purpose till I got my charger. But that's my fun story. Now, two more questions as we wrap
Yeah.
this up. One, if someone were to ask you, I'm a proponent to figuring out why people tick the way they do. And
Okay.
now at this point in your life where you've been through so many challenges with, being a young dad, having the cancer, amputation, and then this recent surgery, what would you say your why is in life? What do you work
Uh,
so hard for? What is it that's most important?
Honestly, I think it's the self wanting to be like I genuinely want to be the best me I can be. I am curious to find out how awesome I can be. In sport, outside of sport, as a person, like I genuinely just want to be the best Noah I can be, and I want to discover what's out there in the world. I want to see all the different things that I can and learn from. Um, I want to share that with my daughter. I want to be the best role model I can be for her. I want to take her on those same experiences. I want to be able to give her a better life than what I had growing up, and so all of those things are what is my why, I would say. And snowboarding is the same thing. Like I want to like I don't know, maybe it's just cuz like I feel like I'm a perfectionist and I want to be the best
Mhm.
I can at everything. And so like with snowboarding it's a no-brainer. I'm like I want to see how far I can be and the best I can be at this. Like
Yeah,
yeah.
I totally get it. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
an athlete mind or if that's just a personality trait, but I totally understand that. It's
Yeah.
being a perfectionist. That's probably the hardest part about being transparent too when things aren't going your way, or your first try at something, like my first try at jump roping.
Mhm.
I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, you're hitting the ground like you're an elephant right now. This you should be a little bit lighter on your foot, and it
Yeah.
was real. And I actually put it out there in social media, which was the most embarrassing thing. But I found that people were like, "Thank you." because I know
Yeah.
when I first started looking towards kind of role models in the amputee world, everybody already had it all together. I'm like, but
Yeah.
what did the starting point look like? What should my starting point look like?
Yeah.
And I wanted it to be real because, well, social media is everybody's best, right?
Oh, sure.
Our
Sure.
snapshot, but you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
The 3 weeks before that on that. So that's cool. I like that. And I have to say that it is so endearing to see your posts with your daughter. Um, you can see she adores you. I mean, it's incredible. It makes me smile every day when I see those posts come out and all the things you guys do together. So that's so
Oh,
cool. All right.
thank you.
Now, best advice you could give someone who is an amputee, a new amputee, someone struggling with being the amputee, what's something you would tell them?
I would definitely tell anybody, no matter if they have a disability or not, is be willing to try. Right. And I think that really hits home for the people who may have a new injury, or someone who is a new amputee, or, whatever it is. But you have to be willing to try and think outside the box. Don't be afraid to fail at it, because, you know, you have to fail to figure it out. And
Right.
sometimes you don't. Sometimes things just kind of click the first time around, and that's awesome. But that almost never happens. So be willing to fail and be willing uh, to give it a shot, because a lot of times you'll surprise yourself at what you can do.
Yeah, I like that. And I agree. I think without failure, you can't learn what needs to be done to succeed.
Mm.
And it also doesn't build any grit. If everything's easy
Yeah.
for you, what character are you actually building for the times when it will get tough, and it will get tough. So if you're riding
Hmm.
it along really nice right now, just be ready. There'll be a
Yeah.
bump. And are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And how you deal with that is what's going to set you up for the future bumps and stuff like that. So yeah,
It is,
like
yeah.
same thing, right? Like, I needed a revision, and it's like, cool, just do it. Like, I know I need to do it and move on, and I'm doing it. So it's like
Yeah.
just a part of like, keep
It's
moving.
hard though, right? It's hard knowing there's a little bit
Oh
of a
yeah.
setback and you're just biting at the bit to get out there to do stuff. It's
Yeah.
really not fun. I'm over the crutches by far. I'm over
Oh,
crutches.
me. And but I looked at, like, I've just become more patient throughout the process, right? Where I'm like, I understand everything has a time, and like that time will come and I'll be there. But right now, what can I focus on to make sure it's a little easier when I get there? So I'm like, just doing that.
It's very good advice. I'm still working on that. So you're wiser, younger and wiser. I like it. Okay, so wrapping this up, I have a game for you called This or That. I'm just going
Yeah.
to name two things and you just whatever kind of resonates with you. All right, I got a few lists here. You ready?
Okay. Hit me.
Thick crust or thin crust?
Oh, thin crust,
Hmm.
St. Louis style.
Yeah, yeah. Meats or veggies?
Oh, if it's barbecue, I'll do barbecue. I'll do barbecue. Yeah.
Okay. Mountains or the ocean?
That's a life question I have yet to discover. I think if I was not a snowboarder, I would live at the ocean 100%.
Yeah.
Um, but I got to go with mountains. I got to go with mountains.
I thought I would push you there a little bit just to see. Now I bring this up because I've seen posts of this. So I want to see if you do either one of these or the other one, fishing or hunting.
Oh yeah, fishing for sure. Fishing. I love fishing because I love it for the sport of it. I just love being out there and fly fishing, and I can catch and release versus hunting.
Right.
If you're hunting, you are taking a life, and so definitely.
Yeah. I've seen you take Skylar out. Yes.
Yeah,
You
yeah, we
guys
go
have
all the
fished.
time.
Well, you guys, it's beautiful there where you can actually, I'm
Yeah.
envious on that. We don't have a lot of water here. There are a couple lakes, but we don't have a lot of water. Would you consider yourself an introvert or life of the party?
I'd say a little bit of. Can I do both, or I'll do extrovert. I'm kind of an extrovert. Yeah.
Okay. I figured you probably were, but I've been surprised by the last couple of people saying they were actually introverts. So,
Yeah.
board games or video games?
Board games for sure.
Do you have a favorite?
Actually, we just got a new one, me and Skylar, I've never even played it before until we got it. Um, what's it called? It's really old. It was like made in the 1950s. And yeah. Mm, I can't remember it right now, but it's like a world, it's like you conquer the world one. You have like little armies and
Is
stuff.
that Risk?
Yes, Risk. There we go. That's it. Yeah. So we got Risk. So I was like, this is sweet. So we've been playing that.
That's so cool. I love that. And that's one of those long games, right? That can keep going. You just leave it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
That's cool. That's very cool. All right. This one's a tough one. Skateboarding or snowboarding? If you had to pick one forever and not be able to touch the other, which one would you pick to do?
being an amputee, I would have to say snowboarding.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that I get a similar feeling as I do when I'm on a skateboard, but I can ride a lot better and I can do more things, and I can pretty much when I snowboard, I go to skateboard the mountain. And so that's what I would do. If I had two legs, I would skateboard.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Are you a night owl or a morning person?
Lately night owl, but I think that's with the surgery and stuff. I've been sleeping a little off, but yeah, usually I like to go to bed early.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just getting there finally. All right. Hiking or biking? Do you bike?
I do actually. And so this is something I'll make it real quick. So biking has been a struggle for me a lot in the past because of the shape of my leg. And so my sockets would never stay on. And so but now I'm stoked because my leg's finally the way it's supposed to be. So I'm definitely gonna be biking. So I can't wait. That's part of my recovery actually, is I'm getting a new bike, and I just got Skylar a new bike. So we're gonna be going mountain biking and trail riding and just like cruising around. So
that's cool. And really quick side note, how do you bike? Do you use, I finally found someone that told me about maglock pedals.
yeah, the magnet ones, right?
Love those.
Yeah, I've just been using a toe cage and like a rubber band over the back, but I do want to get for what I'm about to be doing, because I used to BMX too, and like I would hit huge jumps in trail parks.
Yeah.
So like once I get on a mountain bike, I know I'll be able to hit some big jumps and have fun. So I'm gonna get the maglocks.
Well, I mean, and my fear was, when people say it's as easy as riding a bike, that is not true for an amputee. I have to say, it is the most scary thing to get on one. And I told my husband, I can't keep my leg on without a knee.
Yeah.
But I don't want to put a toe clip in, because if something happens, I can't pull out without a knee. So
right, you're just falling.
So when I said that to someone, I don't know who it was in the community, they were just like, maglock. And that was one of my first birthday presents right after my amputation. It made me cry because I hadn't been on a bike in like 6 years. So
yeah,
love those. They work very well. We get out and we moved up to Carefree, Arizona. So we've got all this open space. So
don't you do like mountain biking too, like enduro style, right?
No, I that scares the crap out of me.
Cycling?
I just get out on the roads here. Yeah. I mean, and my husband got me an electric bike. I swear to God, it's the weight of a motorcycle. It is.
They're heavy. Yeah.
Huge. And I don't use the electric part. I would rather work for it. I like getting out because I want the exercise. Yeah. Not just the la 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 la, joyful trip. I mean, every once in a while that's nice too, but I want to work for it, right? Yeah. For the years I spent laying in bed recovering from surgeries, I missed the good pains from working out, right? The aching muscles and the building of the muscle and all that. And so anything I can do to work muscle, I'm all for. So, all right. And we off track there. One more. And I don't know, I think you would know this, but Starbucks or Dutch Bros? Do you know Dutch Bros?
Well, I'd have to say Dutch Bros. Yeah, Starbucks is consistent. So like, it's nice to have consistency. Like if you're like somewhere in another country and like, whatever, it's consistency, right? But Dutch Bros, honestly, like the whole vibe, how it is. You go to Dutch Bros,
totally.
like
what's your drink to go there? What is your?
I'm a big fan of cold brew. Actually, I'm drinking coffee right now that I made right now. Woo, small soldiers, nice. What's up? Yeah, no, I use like a cold brew, or I'll do like a caramel latte with like an extra shot, and good.
Yeah, I'm all about how many extra shots can you put in that without it being bad.
Yeah,
getting the jitters, right?
Sure, yeah.
Oh, Noah, this has been phenomenal. And I hate to say that we have to go. I know you've got something going on. Skylar's got something going on at school.
Yeah, exactly. She's got a musical going on. So we get to go check that out.
Well, I'm hoping you'll post something because we can't wait to see it. And you know what? I want to have you back on again. I want to see where your journey leads. Whenever you want to speak, you are always welcome on the show. It is
Oh, thank
awesome to have gotten to know you.
absolutely will do. Would love to, and I'll let you know too if I get over to Arizona. Like I got some friends there. I was talking about maybe planning a trip, so we'll find out.
Totally. I would love for you to
Yeah,
meet my family. My boys would love to meet you.
yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you. Good luck with your recovery. Good luck with the future and Italy coming up. It'll be here before, you blink and it's
I know.
time
Yeah,
flies. So thank you so much for your time.
thank you.